live. Take it away, Frank.
Nobody leads you in sexier than James Ladd Jr. right here on JLJ Media for the Loki Aftershow. Welcome, everybody. We're back yet again, the triumvirate of breakdown artists. I would call that, breakdown artists. As we look at all the ins and outs and ups and downs and sideways and back and forths and time portals, time doors and whatever of Loki Season 2, Episode 3, 1893. Brought to you as always by the trio here. Kim McAndrew, welcome back.
Hi.
And of course, the sick but still handsome John Dunphy.
Hello. It's good to be here with you. Good to see you again.
As always, this is all brought to you by the lovely folks at JLJ Media, including James Ladd Jr. So the YouTube chat is running. Feel free to share your thoughts, opinions, comments, conspiracy theories, whatnot on there. Favorite recipes, that John might want to share, some cooking stuff that he's passionate about. Ask him that.
Yeah.
He'll give you those answers. The super chat is also enabled too. So if you feel so kind that you'd like to donate a little extra to JLJ Media, it's always appreciated. But before we get into the episode proper, Kim, what did you think of the episode overall?
I was glad to see that Miss Minutes is she's the true villain of the show. I was like, I just had a feeling, and yes, indeed, she definitely is. And so it was good to see that, and I liked her turning into a ghost and scaring the shit out of me. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, John?
It was good to catch up with Miss Minutes and Renslayer again. I enjoyed the episode very much. It was just this was such a weird, like, wacky episode of television. It was just there was just so many weird things going on. But like I said, I really enjoyed it. But I'm excited to break down as we go through, each little thing. We can kind of talk about it more. But yeah, very strange, very enjoyable. Those are my overall thoughts on the episode.
I will admit, as much as I've enjoyed these season 1 and the parts of season 2, this is the first episode that started causing me just a little concern about how the season's going to wrap up and if it can successfully stick the landing. Okay. So we will see.
We're halfway through now, right? This is only 6 episodes. So yeah. Okay.
Before we get into it, I guess the biggest thing we'll talk about is, as people will say, the elephant in the room, or the time master in the room, Jonathan Majors. We're seeing another iteration of him as He Who Remains / Kang / Victor Timely. Kim, how are you enjoying Jonathan Majors' performance over Loki season 1, Quantumania, and now here into Loki?
Oh man, I'm going to get in so much trouble because people love him so much. But I just think he's kind of fallen flat as a villain for me. After Loki and after Ultron, James Spader is just so good at what he does. And then Thanos, it's kind of like, I don't know. He's just a sarcastic Gen Xer. And I'm just like, I'm a sarcastic Gen Xer. I'm like, I'm not a villain. It's not connecting with me yet. And I feel bad because people are like, oh, the great Jonathan Majors is going to take over the MCU. And I'm like, is he though? I don't.
Yeah.
How do you feel, John?
I agree. I definitely agree. I think the first time that we saw Jonathan Majors as He Who Remains, I enjoyed the performance. I thought, this is interesting. This is new. Didn't really love it though in Quantumania, and this performance in this first episode, we're seeing him in season 2 now of Loki, kind of almost took me out of it more than anything. I don't know. It's just I'm having some trouble. Because he's supposed to be almost the next big villain of Marvel, right? He's supposed to be the next Thanos, and I'm just not really seeing us seeing it get there. Really, I feel like Thanos. We're also seeing more of Kang and He Who Remains, right, than we ever saw of Thanos this early. Like I feel like when Thanos, the whole Infinity Saga was being introduced. So I don't know if it's just like we're seeing too much of him too soon, and like Marvel had so many other great villains along the way of like building up to Thanos. But I don't know, like the performances of Jonathan Major here, I haven't really loved too much, and I just feel like I don't really see how this is going to be as good of a villain arc as Thanos was. I know we're early on in this part of the story, I guess, but like I don't know, it's not really hitting the mark for me right now.
I'm with both of you on that, and I know what you're saying about Thanos, John, and maybe it's the buy-in of Thanos where it's not just him, it's also the effect of making him. It's a motion capture performance by Josh Brolin, which is awesome. But it's so maybe that's why they just kind of were using him sparingly, maybe, or they just didn't quite have it nailed down exactly how he was going to factor into the ending of phase 3. Yeah. So with Endgame and Infinity War. But I mean, I guess with Kang, it's easier because he's, essentially he's a human. I mean, he will put on his little battle mask to look blue and whatnot, but it's much easier to show him more frequently. So maybe that plays into it as well. But I agree with both of you. It's just like watching this performance in this episode was, it just was rough. It was just like, I don't know. I thought I needed a stronger directorial hand where it's like, hey, Jonathan Majors, I'm all for coming up with ideas and stuff, but I felt like this could have been directed and shaped a little bit more, maybe even in post-production. There was just so many ticks and gaps and spaces and just the weird performance quirks that just, boy, it made some of those scenes you're just like, oof.
Yeah.
Tough to really buy in.
Yeah. And I think it's even harder for him because, he's acting next to Loki, which is like, I mean, he's the villain, but he's not, and we all love him so dearly. And Hiddles has just done it so well. It's kind of hard to. I feel a little bad for the guy because he's got to act next to Tom Hiddleston. It's like,
yeah,
sorry, man. Like, I know we already did this so much better, but
that is totally true too. Because this was the first time we're seeing Kang and He Who Remains in this season, and I feel like in the episodes prior, one of the things that we talked about a lot was like how great the acting performances were from Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, and the chemistry they have, and just like the overall acting performance of like the larger cast. And this kind of like stopped it in its tracks for me a little bit. That shouldn't be, because we're being introduced at the halfway point of the season here to such a critical, crucial character, and it seemed like the momentum that we had in the first 2 episodes almost kind of stumbled a bit in this episode to me.
And I feel like I'll ask both of you as well, as either like this is the one episode where it really kind of started putting a little light on for me, and I don't know if the two of you feel the same way, where I just feel like Loki was kind of lost in this episode. It was more Sylvie, it was more Victor Timely, it was more Renslayer, and it's like a feeling that I've been having a little bit in each of the episodes this season as well, but I feel like this time really, where it's like, it's Loki's show. We're really wanting to see his struggles, growth, challenges, deceptions, whatever it might be. But I feel like we're losing all that in the swirl of all these other characters. John, how do you feel?
I agree with that. And I even would extend it to Sylvie a little bit, because they are variants of the same person, right? So it's like, and I agree with everything you just said about Loki, but then even Sylvie, like the way that season 1 ended with the two of them there at the end of time, not really sure what was going to happen next. I thought we were going to get a lot from both of them and a lot of growth from both of them. And I feel like this season, all we've really seen of Sylvie, right? Episode 1, all we got was the post-credit scene where she walks into that McDonald's. And then episode 2 is, her still at that McDonald's. And then this, it's like she shows, I feel like the way they're using Sylvie isn't really what I had hoped for. I really hoped that at the halfway point of the season, we were getting a lot more from Loki and Sylvie, and just a lot more development, a lot more growth from them as the season progressed. But I feel like Loki has been sort of stifled, like you said, and I feel like Sylvie has not really. She's just kind of spinning her tires. I feel like she's just stuck at this McDonald's. She's just going to show up when a variant of He Who Remains shows up, and she's going to freak out because she hates this guy and she wants to kill him. But then Loki's going to tell her that, well, if you kill him, then all the people in your new life are going to die. It's just like, I don't know. What are we doing here? We're halfway through the season.
Yeah, Kim, because I feel like the frustrating thing with Sylvie is like she has gotten what she's wanted. She's killed He Who Remains. So she goes to this branch and would seemingly be very happy, at least by the end of what we see at the end of episode 1, where it's like, I want to try everything. And yet I feel like these last 2 episodes, all we're seeing no joy of finally being free of this and having her own little slice of a timeline to live on. It is just her anger and at the TVA and at He Who Remains possibly coming back.
Yeah, I'm just like, you have what you want. They didn't prune your timeline, so why are you not, doing your job and having fun? I mean, I don't know. Why are you still mad? Why is she still mad? I don't get it. But honestly, I'd rather see her show up and just stir some shit up other than, just watching, Jonathan Majors just quirk it up for a half hour, honestly.
Yeah, because I was even fine with last episode where her and Loki first reunite. I mean, she was already just gloom and doom and not really, enthusiastic. You would think, hey, no, you found me, yes, but I've got what I wanted. I'm free. He's dead. I know you didn't agree with me on that, but I'm happy. But we've seen really none of her experiencing any sort of relief, joy, appreciation for, this new life that she chose to create by killing He Who Remains.
Yeah, that's and I really want that for her because she got, taken from her life when she was so young. It's like I would like to see, what is Sylvie like when she has a good life that she enjoys? How is she different? She's not a movie star, but that's okay. She's happy where she is, but we're not seeing that, and I kind of wish we would see it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe she's afraid to give into that happiness because she's worried it'll just get taken away again.
That's very true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the way to live, John.
It's true. You're right.
Well, this episode, we finally do get a chance to see a couple people, or at least a person and an AI that we haven't seen in a while. And that is Renslayer and Miss Minutes. They reunite in 1863 Chicago, which is on the sacred timeline. And Miss Minutes says, hey, you're here just to do one thing, because we're putting the He Who Remains plan in motion. All you do is just take this book and just dump it in that window. And we're good. Peace out after that. John, are you willing to just take an AI's word at it? Or would you be like, I need you to break down everything that's happening here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd be a little skeptical, I guess. Like, unless this kid is smart enough, I just got to put this book in there and everything will work out. Like, he's really that smart. But, like, I don't know. I'd be a little bit like, really? That's it? That's going to fix everything? I just put this book in this random window and I just have to trust that that everything's good. Like, I don't know. That seems a little crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but just, come on, that's not his plan. It's totally Miss Minutes' plan. And
right.
he told me to bring this book here and give it to you so you could give it to the kid. And, it was his idea. And I'm like, then why isn't he here? It's like, girl, I think you're lying. If she's a girl, I think she's Miss. So yeah, Miss Minutes. So yeah, I'm like, you're a liar. Clock is a liar.
Meanwhile, the TVA, we do find out that with the pruning of some of the timelines from last episode, that the imminent danger of everything going kablooey at the TVA has been kind of relieved a little bit. They've got a little stay of sentence, but they still got to figure out how to get He Who Remains, or a variant of him, to come back to the TVA and share his temporal aura so they can actually do what they need to do the proper fix. So it's Loki and Mobius finding Renslayer and hoping to find a variant of He Who Remains. And they go to 1863, don't see anything, then jump to 1893. And it's interesting at this moment that they are off the sacred timeline and on a variant timeline. So I guess we could look at that 1863 as the start of a branch. By just putting that book in the window, that started its own branch reality.
Yeah, I read somewhere that somebody said it was a Nexus event, giving the book to the kids. So that would create, a big branch. I don't know. It gets confusing.
I know, it really does get so confusing.
So
You're afraid to
confusing.
say anything because you're like, I might sound like an idiot.
Yeah.
I constantly feel like that.
Yeah.
But what is cool, at least for the majority of this episode, is that we are in 1893 for the Chicago World's Fair, which growing up around that area, I was always obsessed with that World's Fair. I thought it was such a cool idea, and just seeing the bits and pieces that are still up, which aren't very many, but just little kind of almost ruins and areas in Chicago that are from the World's Fair has always been just cool to me. So anything set in there is always going to get my attention. John, how did you feel about the realization of the World's Fair on a TV budget?
It looked amazing. I thought this looked so cool, and it was I love like how the costumes changed too, like that, like between Mobius and Loki, like when they're jumping in time and everything, and they're going to different places. And I thought this looked phenomenal. I loved the kid running through that the ghost clock haunts the midway or whatever. That was funny. I love the jumping around to different time periods here, and I thought the portrayal of the World's Fair here was gorgeous. I thought it was great.
Kim, I'm going to ask you: are you more like Loki or more like Mobius in a situation like that? Would you be all business, or would you like, hey, we also have to just try some of the snacks while we're
snacks,
doing our thing?
Snacks for days. Yeah. I've noticed that all of the time travelers, like America Chavez, she taught Dr. Strange, she's like, the first thing you do is find food. And when you get to a new place, and she's like, pizza is usually a safe bet. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. That's very interesting. And I like that, Mobius was like, oh, no. We can go back. We're going to get some Cracker Jacks, man. This is going to be awesome. And I'm like, yeah. Like, if you get to time travel, that's part of the fun, I would think.
For sure. I'm all about historical snacks. Lay 'em on.
I love that. I love that Loki was like, yeah, this Cracker Jack tastes like ash. Meanwhile, like, according to Loki, candy equals, nuts and berries.
Grapes.
John, are you a Cracker Jack man? I personally am
not. I'm not really a Cracker Jack guy either. Yeah.
More of a fiddle faddle person.
Ooh, okay.
A little better. Yeah, it's a little better. But you don't get a prize, which sucks.
Yeah. I don't know.
You don't get a cool little tattoo or something.
I'm not like the caramel corn. It's just not my jam. I like my corn, just popcorn regular. I don't feel like maybe some cheese on there, but I just don't. The caramel just never agrees with me.
I do like those the Christmas barrels, with the buttered popcorn, the cheese popcorn, and the caramel. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but how do you eat any of that caramel corn?
Nah, no, not usually.
It's always the other two sides go.
I would strangely mix it with the cheese.
Oh,
which was weird.
No,
but I was a kid. I didn't know better,
But I've seen
it's probably good
in Chicago where they have different flavors of popcorn, and they do those kind of blends. But I'm like, I just feel like it would make me sad about the cheese.
For real,
make me sad.
What are you doing to
Yeah.
that great cheese popcorn?
Yeah, somebody sent one to my dad's dental office every Christmas. We got one of the giant tins, and it was like, yes, it's here. It was like he's brought it home. We would get out of the car, and I would be like, oh, he's got the popcorn. I'm so excited.
But now, as having a father as a dentist, Kim, how cool is he with about eating all that stuff? Was he like, no, you can only have a
No.
little because it's going to ruin your teeth?
He had at least 2 packs of grape bubble yum in his desk at all times. He chewed 2 pieces at a time, and he would blow bubbles while he would do fillings.
That's cool. All right.
His whole thing was, and they would go, Doc, why are you're chewing gum and you're telling me to be careful about sweets? And he's like, I brush my teeth after this. And I'm like, he does.
Yeah.
He
go.
brushes his teeth he would brush his teeth like 3 times a day. So
You can enjoy them, those
Never-
little sweet treats then. No
yeah,
worries.
no,
Yeah,
no, he was a bubble yum man, big time. Big time.
So our Loki and Mobius, they do find the newspaper boy, as John was mentioning, they do see about the ghost clock. So kind of puts them on the hunt, like, okay, I guess we're in the right spot. And we get, as they track everything down, we go to get our introduction to Victor Timely. Kim, how excruciating did you find this intro of Victor Timely? His speech, his salesmanship.
You know, it was, oh boy, I really thought they were trying to kind of remind us of Howard Stark in Captain America when he did his flying car that didn't fly very much, but he said he was working on it. But compared to that, it's just like the charisma is just like night and day. It's, Howard Stark, you're like, woohoo! And Victor Timely, you're like, okay, what do you got? I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't get it.
John, I felt the same way as Kim was feeling too. He's supposed to be this great huckster / con man / snake oil salesman, so to speak. I feel like that charisma's got to be part of it if you're trying to get people to give you money for these adventures that may or may not work, and they may or may or not work. But his performance for there, just like, it left me wondering, like, why would anybody want to buy anything he was selling? Because he was just came off as just somebody like, I don't know about this guy.
Yeah, no, I agree. There actually is a part of me though that, like, I almost like could have handled it better if that was just his, like, on stage sort of, like, he wants to be this sort of like weird eccentric, that's like just an on stage persona of him being like, oh, what do you think I'm going to come up with next? I'm the weird mad scientist and blah blah blah. And then, like, he had a different persona off the stage, and then, like, when you see this whole on stage performance sort of wrap up, it's like, no, that's just him. He's just like this kind of weird, awkward, like, guy that I don't know. I wouldn't trust him one bit. If he got off stage and then was like, oh, did you like my performance? Like, and it was like kind of more like, I'd be like, all right. He's just trying to build this up a little bit and be like that weird mad scientist guy. But no, he's just, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was something about, like, even watching his presentation. And I mean, I guess he puts those light bulbs in different parts of that device, but I'm still wondering, like, okay, what's the whole point of this thing? Is this itself just a generator? What's going on? I feel like the sales pitch, they're like, I could light the whole world. Okay, sure. It just seems so vague that I'm just like, I don't know what he's really selling with this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if he knows.
True, which makes sense.
He knows what he's selling.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that whole TVA manual that fills him with ideas, but as he keeps saying throughout the episode, that the materials of the time just won't let him execute all the ideas that are just rattling around in his head from reading this manual.
Yeah.
I think he
well,
said what he said. He knew his ideas were good. He just never had the technology to make them really work, I think is what he said
yeah.
at some point. Yeah.
We do get to see finally, when Mobius and Loki go in there, they spot Renslayer waiting to get to Loki or to get to Victor. And then we see them have an interaction. And finally they get outside the bar, the performance hall where they've been at. And it just felt weird where they finally all come together right around Victor Timely. And I don't know, it's just for being such a main thing where it's like Mobius, like, we got to find Renslayer. And that's been the driving force, like them running into each other. Kim, how did you feel about that kind of reunion? It felt very understated and underwhelming, where it's like, I think this should be more important, right?
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to be way more important than it seemed to be. And they've been trying to find Miss Minutes the whole time too. And I'm like, you finally found them. You need to tell them what's going on, so maybe they'll help. I mean, they probably won't, but you should at least try. And I don't know. It just wasn't. They were all just so focused on Victor Timely, and then Sylvie shows up and starts throwing knives, and it gets crazy from there.
John, how well do you think you know what Renslayer's motivation is in this episode?
It seems like her motivation is like obviously getting Victor Timely to the head of the TVA, but like her real motivation is just making sure that she is, if not equal to him, like the number 2 at the TVA. Like she wants this to be, she wants the TVA to be as much hers as she does He Who Remains. Like that's, I think, her sole motivation is just having as much power and control as possible. Because it is interesting, like this whole reunion, right? We finally get Mobius and Loki and Renslayer on screen together, and essentially it seems like their goals should all be the same. They want to take this guy Victor Timely and get him back to the TVA, and yet there's no point in the episode where we actually see them working together, even though they kind of have this common goal. And I think it's because she feels like if I let anybody help get him back there, my chances of having as much power as possible go down. Like, she wants to be the person that walks him in there, and he's the only, she's the only one that he goes to bounce ideas off of, or to, discuss things with. Like, she's out for power for herself, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. It does seem kind of confusing, because it does feel like, hey, you both want the TVA still to exist and prevent this whole thing from blowing up. Yet I don't know what. It seems weird to me that she's not willing to at least play ball with them enough to, like, hey, I'll work with you as long as it's furthering my agenda. But the minute I feel like, I'm not going to get what I want, I'm going to cut you guys off at the knees. But we don't really see any of that. And I felt like that was kind of frustrating. Kim, did you feel the same way or no?
Yeah, definitely. I was surprised that she fell for Miss Minutes bullcrap so easily. I was like, aren't you smarter than this? I'm like, you don't know that she's up to no good? I mean, you can't just tell, because I mean, I don't know. I just thought she was smarter than that. And she just, next thing you know, she's in that rowboat, and it was like, oh, come on, girl. Are you serious?
Yeah,
I thought that was a nice little subtle thing they did play in the episode. They didn't really hang a big light shade on it, but you could just see some movements of hands and stuff. But the whole thing about he does not work with partners, and anytime that anybody kind of brought that up to him, you could just see him just kind of pulling back, like, nope, I'm out.
Nope.
I loved all the little looks on Miss Minutes' face too, like when Victor Timely put his hand on Renslayer's hand and she's frowning, and then as soon as he takes it off, when Renslayer mentions the word partnership, it goes right back to a smile. Like all those little things, those were fun.
Yeah. Just watching her is interesting.
So yes, as Kim mentions, we finally make our way with the chase through Victor Timely. It ends up on a Ferris wheel, with Loki, Sylvia, and Victor Timely in one of the Ferris wheel carriage cars as it's going around. and Loki and Sylvie are kind of dueling back and forth about what to do with Victor Timely. Yeah, I mean, John, I don't know. Like that's where the stuff that's kind of bugging me up about Loki. It's like I really don't know what. It seems like, I yes, he's had growth, but he's also the god of mischief. I feel like he's always working the angles, and yet I really don't see that aspect of the character being shown in this season at all, of him kind of working angles. Even though he might be doing something for the greater good, he's also still got some agenda for himself that's kind of buried within him.
Yeah, it seems like in this season, he's just been reduced to like being a very loyal employee of the TVA. That's who Loki is now. Which I know it is technically bigger than that, because what we saw at the end of season 1 and the finale, really freaked him out, obviously. So he's obviously, like, in his mind, he's just thinking like, I have to do whatever I can to fix things and all that. But like, it just seems like he is so dead set on fixing the TVA now, whereas before he was fighting against it. And now Sylvie, who wanted this new life and this, and she's gotten this new life, like, can't see past the idea of like, I might lose this life if I don't kill Victor Timely. I don't know. Like, it's just, they seem like they're just too extreme. Where, like you said, normally these Lokis are working the angles and like being more sneaky and mischievous. I don't know.
Yeah,
for sure.
he's so aware, because he talks about, remember that time I got mad at my dad and I, basically held New York hostage and had an army from space and so on. And he's like, and it was just because I lost it. And so now he sees Sylvie doing the same things and he's trying to stop her. And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like he's got to be more persuasive than what he's been so far. It's like he just needs to sit down and talk. But she, at the same time, though, she shows up and just immediately starts throwing sharp things. So it's like there's no talking to her, really.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's kind of frustrating when it seems like neither one of their points of view is shifting. And maybe John, do you think we get a little bit with Sylvie at the end of this episode with how she kind of resolves the Victor Timely Renslayer situation?
So I think in that moment, when she shows up at this lab across the lake, right in Wisconsin, and finally lets Mobius and Loki go with He Who Remains, I felt like the only thing that really convinced her is because she almost, in the argument that Victor Timely was making, you don't know me, you don't know the heart that's beating in my chest, I can make my own choices. I think she was kind of seeing herself in him, and that's the only thing that really convinced her to like switch up her thinking here. Like, it didn't matter how many times Loki said to her, like, you have this new life that you love, but it's going to be done if you don't help us fix the TVA. Like, that branch won't exist, those people will die. No matter how many times she heard that from Loki, it never convinced her to like kind of change her thinking. It wasn't until this argument from Victor Timely that I think she saw a lot of herself in, because from a young age, she hadn't done anything. She hadn't made been able to make any of her own choices. She hadn't done anything wrong or hurt anybody. As a child, she was just taken, and her whole life was taken away from her. And I felt like she thought that she would have been doing the same thing to Victor Timely that was done to her if she chose to kill him in that moment rather than let him go. So I think it was only that argument that she saw it like kind of in herself that changed her mind at all.
You agree, Kim?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think she's slowly getting it, but yeah, she's really just determined to just not listen to Loki, because I think just deep down she knows that he's right, and she knows that she's screwed up because she started all this crap, and she knows it, and she just doesn't want to look in the mirror and face that. And that's what a very immature person does, and she's very immature. So
yeah, because I feel like it's still kind of rolling off what Loki was saying at the end of season 1, where he just wanted to take a minute and just talk about this. And I still feel like that nobody's really done that yet, even in these beginning part of the season 2. Like everybody's just running constantly. Nobody's actually just taking a moment. Like, what are we doing? How are we doing it? Why are we doing it? Should we be doing it?
Yeah.
So on the boat ride, after Ravonna kind of tips her hand a little bit too much, Timely and Miss Minutes give her the boat side boot. But I do like that she just doesn't give up. She grabs those oars and just starts paddling her out. Meanwhile, we do get to see that while Mobius and Loki have lost Victor and Ravonna and Miss Minutes, they do find a tandem bicycle. So, John, what would be your more preferred mode of transportation? A tandem bicycle or a paddle boat?
You know what? I've never actually ridden on a tandem bicycle, and I'd love to try it. So I think I'd go for that one. Yeah.
I just see disaster ahead for me. So rowboat all the way. Yeah, I just see disaster.
I mean, if they actually pedaled that bike all the way to Wisconsin, that's impressive, because that's not that's a little bit of a jaunt from Chicago.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, they got there pretty quick.
Yes. But it does give time for Miss Minutes and Victor to have a little one-on-one time. Kim, how did you like the turn of Miss Minutes actually having a crush or a thing for
who knew? Yeah. I mean, you always knew. It was just like, duh, yeah, of course. And the way he just kept cutting her off. And I was just like, this has been going on through all the different timelines for years and years and years. I'm like, that poor thing, she's not going to get what she wants. She's just not. And that's what makes her evil. So maybe if he did make her a body, things would calm down. I don't know.
Yeah, John, do you want to see Miss Minutes in some sort of kind of humanoid form?
I don't know. She's freaking me out. Yeah, I don't know. This was very weird. I just does she not care about the TVA at all then? Like, because that's the thing too. Like this Victor Time, like this version of He Who Remains, he even said it in the episode. Like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to give you a body. Yeah. So like, she's like, why don't we just stay here for a while and lay low? It's like, he clearly doesn't know how to do this. So like, you're not going to get your body here.
Yeah.
Like, the TVA is about to explode. Like, what are we doing? Like, what's your plan here, Miss Minutes? Like, what do you like? I don't know. Very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Kim was saying that it's like, it's not really, He Who Remains plan. It's just Miss Minutes just running her own plan, but saying it's his. So,
right.
I mean, I guess it explains things like that, where she's not really thought, other than just getting Victor all to herself, hasn't really thought much else other than that.
Right.
Right. So we do see everybody come together at his factory. They all get in a big tussle, and that is when Sylvie decides not to kill Victor Timely and let him go back to the TVA with Loki and Mobius, but does stay back with Renslayer, saying, "Oh, I'm going to take care of her," and rather than killing her, just pushes her through a time door and sends her back to the end of time. Kim, how did you feel about this resolution with Renslayer? Because I mean, she basically just has her temp pad and Miss Minutes, but now at the end of time, it's not really like she's trapped there at all.
A little bit of growth, because she didn't just get stabby.
Mm-hmm.
She sent her somewhere, and I was like, I'm kind of here for it. I like that kind of revenge because of what she's been through. But yeah, I'm like, I think they're just going to be able to get out of it really, really easy. It's like, but at the same time, I don't know. I thought she really, she kind of grew a little bit by not just out and out, just murking her right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like John, I mean, I was trying to remember, and I haven't gone back to watch the episode, but I know you with your eagle eyes will be able to answer this question for me. Is we do see that Victor has the temp pad, and he captures Miss Minutes in the temp pad, shuts her down as she's trying to make the advances on him. But is that the temp pad that Renslayer grabs at some point?
I'm assuming it has to be, right? Because it seems like that's the only temp pad that can actually get Miss Minutes to come out, unless like there was a second one that Renslayer had. I don't know, but because the whole thing, I mean, TVA is loaded with people that has temp pads, and no one else has been able to get her. It's this one temp pad that Renslayer has. So I'm assuming that she somehow got that when she had the that prototype pruning stick on Victor Timely. She must have grabbed it back at some point, I think. But
yeah, because it was for me, like when she got kicked through the time door, I'm like, oh, all right, cool. She's going to be stranded somewhere. But when she immediately just gets out at the end of time, and it just whips out that temp pad and pops out Miss Minutes, I'm like, well, okay, this is not really
right.
the prison that Sylvie was imagining that she was sending you to.
Like, it's interesting because you wonder if Sylvie knew that she had the temp pad. Maybe she wouldn't have gone about it the same way, right? But it was still effective, I think, because you see you have Renslayer and Miss Minutes there looking at He Who Remains Dead. And then I'm very interested in the next couple lines where you have Miss Minutes talking about not a very smart idea for him to make an enemy out of somebody who knows all of his secrets. And it's like, okay, so now we know that Miss Minutes considers He Who Remains the enemy, which is a big change. So the fact that they are not stuck there and that's the mindset now is exciting for where are they going to go next?
Mm-hmm.
It makes me happy that they aren't stuck there, because it's like, all right, these are clearly two enemies now of this guy, and they have a way out. So
yeah.
Kim, for that, because I think that's really interesting. I think that John was mentioning, but also Kang is supposed to be our big, huge bad. Whether it's Victor Timely progressing into that version or another version that we're going to see, that is going to be the Kang we'll see in the films. I don't know. It just seems like this kind of stuff, while interesting, also just gives it to me like Buffy the Vampire, a big bad villain sort of thing that we're going to wrap up with the season, rather than this is supposed to be the next big bad of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe for the next couple of years.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they're just getting a read on what the fans are thinking of him. And I mean, and not only that, but there's been, personal issues with that actor, and they've talked about recasting. And I feel like there's a lot more moving parts behind the scenes that have really nothing to do with the story. I mean, they've written themselves into Kang is the bad guy, period. And there's going to be Avengers movies, and there's going to be, Secret Wars, and all of that's going to happen. But now it's like, which Kang are they going to go with? And I think they're still just kind of feeling it out and seeing where this goes, and maybe, change it up, because I mean, because you can completely change him, because he's different in whatever realm, he's in.
Yeah.
So it would be an easy fix.
John, what do you think Renslayer's big secret is that Miss Minutes
I don't know. I'm so interested though. I don't know. I'm still wondering, because we have that recording between He Who Remains and Renslayer. I wonder if maybe it has something to do with that or something like that. I don't know. Very interesting what this is. I want to see her get really mad though. So I can't wait to hear what this secret is.
I mean, because at least in the comics, Ravonna is a queen of a king, and then is also involved romantically with Kang. So I don't know. I don't know what that means necessarily, how faithful they're going to be to that kind of iteration of the character, or if it's just more like, we're name checking the name, but we're going to kind of do our own spin on whatever it is. Kim, what do
That
you
would definitely that would piss me off if I found out that I was royalty in my like actual timeline and was kidnapped from that. You know, like that. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, that would suck. That would totally suck.
what's your
I'm just mad that poor Mobius hasn't been. He just wants a jet ski. Come on, just give him a jet ski. Come on.
It's simple things. It should be easy enough to do.
Yeah.
Let the men have a ride.
Let
Instead
him-
of
let
tandem
him- let him
bicycles,
go on
let's
jet
have
ski.
a little jet ski for two with him and Loki.
Yeah.
All right. So I know I was kind of sharing my kind of concerns, but now as we're heading about this season, but now Kim, as we're heading into the back half, are you feeling optimistic? Are you feeling pessimistic? Or you're just kind of taking a wait and see kind of
Wait and
perspective?
see. I'm very
Okay.
wait and see. I hope that we get a lot more of Miss Minutes underhandedness. I hope she ends up back at the TVA because I think that'll make things a lot more interesting. But I'm very wait and see. In Loki I trust. Always. In Loki I trust.
John, how about you?
I'm the same. Wait and see, because I still like. I loved season one. I really enjoyed the first two episodes of this season, and I did still enjoy this episode. Like, it was still enjoyable to watch, but there were definitely a lot of things that I was kind of like, where are we going with this? Like, where do we go from here? Like, and so I was a little like, I don't want to say that I'm pessimistic, because I still think that we still have half the season. We could definitely still end this season on a really good note, I think, but I'm not as optimistic maybe as I was at the end of episode 2, let's say. So like now I'm in the middle where I'm wait and see.
I'm gonna go just full on pessimistic, but not the kind of pessimistic where it's like, oh, they've ruined, what's going on. They ruined my childhood kind of pessimism.
Oh,
It's more
God.
just like I as somebody who loves Marvel, as I know we all do, it's just like I just want to see good stories told with these great characters. So that's so it's like if a story is not and the track record for their television stuff and some of the recent films have been hit or miss. And so it's just kind of a bummer. It's not like I'm angry at Marvel or I hate them, but I'm bummed. It's never fun to watch a show about characters that you're enthusiastic about and then just see kind of a mediocre story. You're like, these characters are, there's great stories that could be told about these characters. I just want to see just really cool, fun, interesting stories.
Yeah. I just want to see more season. I just want a spinoff of Loki and Mobius being time cops. And that's just like every week they're in a different time and they have to kind of quantum leap fix things. And I just really want them just totally have the bromance and go for it. That's what I want. If I was running the show, that's what I would do.
Yeah. Like, I feel like Loki has proven that the season 1 and everything. I feel like Loki, the team that's working on it, is very good. They can definitely tell a good story. We're getting good performances from most of these actors and stuff. But I just feel like they're forced to go in certain directions because of what Marvel is trying to do, like at large, with their next phase and next phases of what they want to do. So it's like that they just have to run with some of this stuff. And I don't think that Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumanium was everything that people had hoped it was, but now Loki, you have to keep building on that. So it's like they're kind of forced into going into this direction, but it wouldn't be my first choice. I feel like if I was working on a show like Loki, I feel like there's so many other stories you could tell, so many different ways you could work this show.
No, I agree. It's it's Loki after all, guys. It's like, yes, you want a lot of cool supporting characters around him, but Loki's the crown jewel in this ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like ultimately why you want to have growth for everybody and interesting storylines for these secondary characters, it's Loki's got to be the guy that you really got to invest it in during this whole process. And so I feel like I'm hoping that by the end of the season, that it's brought about like, yes, this is why this is a Loki story, as opposed to it could have been anybody else, any other magic wielding kind of person in Loki's position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, though, quick Marvel Easter egg that we didn't get a chance to talk about is when they are back at the World's Fair and they do go see the Norse pavilion, so to speak, the little hut. And they do have the sculptures of Odin and Thor. And while Loki would hope to see one of himself as well, it is of Baldar the Brave, which is somebody that I know Marvel's tried to get in to a few of their films without much success. So, Kim, did you enjoy seeing that little, finally the introduction of Baldar the Brave that we've been teasing?
I thought that was great, and I love that he was upset, but mostly upset that he wasn't represented, so he couldn't complain about how badly he was represented. I was like, that's awesome. I love that.
John, what I loved about that scene though too is again that Mobius and Loki chemistry that we all really enjoy. It's just Mobius taking that beat and just saying like, oh man, yeah, there's times like that I forget that you're like one of those guys.
Yeah, that's like that. I'm glad that you brought that up too, because I was going to mention it. Like that, I loved that moment because it's like Mobius, like it's so funny. Like I feel like Loki has never had a person in his life that he allowed to like make fun of him the way that Mobius does. So you can tell that they really are such good buddies, because then like Mobius follows it up too by saying like, you are one of them. Like, that Mobius actually thinks it is so cool that he gets to hang out with a Norse god every day at work. Like my best friend is Loki, the god of mischief. Like, and I get to make fun of him as much as I want. But like, yeah, we love each other at the end of the day. Like I love their relationship, and I'm totally on board for the show that Kim was pitching before.
Tom Cops.
Oh yes, there you go. Cops. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to bring us to the end of this episode of the Loki Season 2, Episode 3 breakdown. But as always, we're going to be back here next week breaking down Episode 4, hopefully with me being more, at least if not optimistic, at least back to a wait and see, along with John and Kim.
Same.
But thanks everybody for joining us there in the YouTube chat, sharing your thoughts and comments and your speculations as well. And if you want to follow any of us, even after the show's over, Kim, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere at inplainsight.style.
Woo! And are you on the countdown besides your really cool Loki pen that you're wearing this evening?
Oh yeah.
Yes, very nice.
I put on a Loki dress.
Yes. Are you on the countdown for the Marvels film?
Yes, definitely. I actually have to talk to my son this weekend about getting our tickets and making those arrangements. So yeah. I'm really excited about it. It looks like it's going to be good. It looks like it's going to be really, really good.
Fingers crossed. I would love to walk out of a Marvel movie just feeling like, yeah, that was a fun time.
Yeah.
John Dunphy, where can they find you, sir?
You can find me at JDunn89 on all social media platforms. And if you like reality TV, check out at StratChatPod. We're talking about Big Brother and Survivor and The Challenge and all stuff like that. So come hang out.
John Dunphy doesn't like to, brag too much, but he is the number one Corey Stan for sure.
You lying liar.
He's really got involved in the amendments and the government thanks to Corey. So I'm glad for you. I'm happy for you, John.
Oh man.
Ladies and gentlemen, and a belated, or not a belated, but just a gracious thank you to James Lott Jr. for giving us this platform on JLJ Media. So make sure you follow them, or JLJ Media, on all social media platforms as well, to keep up to date with all the cool stuff that James is doing. It's not just our great show. There's so many other great shows and classes as well that James does as well. So you can learn about a variety of different topics from the master himself, James Lott Jr. But until next Tuesday night, we will see you again then. Stay cool, stay mischievous. I'm still working on this tagline, guys. Stay mischievous.
Stay sexy,
Stay sexy. Yes. Stay all of those things. We'll see you next